Hey guys, Brian here for Ginger Prime, and we have a monster of a post to go over with you guys today. Now, this is from Yoshi-P regarding third-party tools, and it goes into leaks, data mining, emulation for the servers, all trying to get that competitive edge in the ultimate world first race. And that's what really this is kind of stemming from. So we're going to discuss it. You guys can always let me know your thoughts below. But also, if you guys want more Final Fantasy news in your daily feed, be sure to check out Ginger JRPG. I'll include a link in the description, and I'll put a link also in the comments, so that way you guys can find that channel if you haven't found it already. I talked a little bit about Final Fantasy XI and the 20th anniversary. My thoughts about this weekend over there today. Hopefully you go check out that video, and hopefully it's a good video for you to enjoy. There's a lot, like I said, we're going to unpack in this video, so get some coffee, buckle up, and let's get into the nitty gritty, and I'll give you guys my thoughts along the way. So first and foremost, hello, this is Nokia Yoshida, producer and director of Final Fantasy XIV. With the release of patch 6.1 and Dragonsong Reprise Ultimate, we've heard the concerns from players about the use of third-party tools and potential for in-game server emulation. Now, I've touched on these topics previously in live letters, but I'd like to take this opportunity to formally address them here for you. Please note, this is going to be a lengthy post continuing difficult technical terminology and may not be of interest to the average player. Moreover, the announcement is meant to be read in its entirety, so I ask you, please refrain from sharing excerpts of this text out of context. So this is really key to take away, and especially the fact that he's asking this at the start of this. If you guys just want to go read this for yourselves and you don't want my commentary, feel free, but we're going to give this man his due, and we're going to give the full context. We're going to go through the full thing in this video. Use of third-party tools. As stated in terms of use, Final Fantasy XIV, the use of third-party tools is strictly prohibited. Players who are determined to be using third-party tools will have their accounts suspended or permanently banned for repeat offenses. Now, let's define those tools. We have received requests from players asking that we define what tools are and aren't permissible. Due to that, what should be required? An assessment of third-party tools available on the internet, as well as all gaming devices and their functionality. Unfortunately, such an undertaking is physically impossible, which is why we decided to simply prohibit the use of all third-party tools and software. By the same token, it is impossible for us to check what programs are installed on every player's PC. This is why we cannot identify and reprimand offenders 100% of the time. To offer more clarity in our process, here are some few examples of the rule violations we prioritize for investigation. Use of tools that allow players to more easily complete content, modification of the UI to display additional information, use of package spoofing tools, any actions or public statements that promote the use of third-party tools. Hands down, I've always said, it's such a weird world, right? Because when we talk about Final Fantasy XIV and then we talk about the use of third-party tools, that's where I think Yoshi-P, there is a serious gap, because Yoshi-P and the team have been shown to use people who use best in slot, who use third-party parsing to be able to determine things within their own company. And we've seen that happen in the past. It's just wild. And so we'll continue to explore this post. All reports of such activity warrant investigation, and the accounts determined to be in violation of the game's terms of service will be suspended or banned unless there is a significant chance of the terms of service, which would be publicly announced. This rule remains as is. Regarding hacks, mods, the risk of infection from malicious software. Hacks and alterations of a program that can allow for otherwise impossible things to happen. For 14, which relies on server client communication, hacking is more difficult than in other online games. Moreover, our security measures are being improved upon constantly, and we will continue to bolster them in the future. Supplementary tools known as mods, however, can do a number of things, such as display additional information sent by 14 servers on screen, or send false packet information and change the location of characters. In the case of the latter, we have systems in place to automatically check and inspect system logs, allowing us to immediately take action against cheaters when discovered. In short, the use of such tools will not allow players to automatically clear high-end content, yet carries a high risk of being penalized, so we ask that you refrain from using them. We receive many inquiries regarding infection by viruses and spyware that steal passwords after downloading third-party tools and plugins. To keep your system secure, we ask that you exercise judgment and refrain from needlessly downloading third-party tools and software of unknown origins. Regarding enhancements of the UI, We believe that people use the aforementioned tools to expand the HUD and display more information because they feel the existing functions are insufficient for tackling high-end duties. In recognition of this, we intend to review the most prominent tools, and in order to discourage their use, endeavor to enhance the functionality of the HUD. Though it will take some time, we are determined to make it happen, not least for the benefit of those who play on consoles. I think this is a real key takeaway. One of the things that when Final Fantasy XIV, like as a game, is a real clear difference maker. It plays on consoles. And one of the things that is actually really positive about no third-party tools is that you have that same experience, whether you're on console or PC. Obviously, there's third-party tools and that like. So them doing a hard look at the features that offers, hopefully will then bring about those features on console as well. So we can only hope they can continue to extend and add those features that people feel are necessary but are lacking. And I'm not going to sit here and list out what those are in this video, so just note that we can have a discussion on that later if needed. High-end duties and world races. Now this is where we get into what's kind of causing a lot of the problems and drama. It goes without saying that we are aware of world first races for high-end duties. As the developers, we are proud to grow into one of the few games where they're held, and it delights us to see so many players participate as well as speculate with great interest. But the race should be fair, and it's our earnest wish that the participants don't use third-party tools. Indeed, we only release duties that we have proven we can beat with the game's standard features. Without a doubt, patch 6.1 Dragonsong Reprise is the hardest duty we've ever created. Some may compare it to the Unending Coil of Bahamut, but taking into account our players' improved skill and increased number of actions and more complex mechanics, the latest ultimate entry has the edge. To be able to conquer it in such short time requires great individual prowess, teamwork, and support, and you can consider this gamer thoroughly impressed. Because other races are unofficial, we usually limit our involvement in some comments after the number of teams have cleared the duty by offering our congratulations via the official Twitter account and confirming timestamps. We want to recognize your achievements and contribute to the community excitement. However, if our recognition encourages excessive competition and controversy to the extent that players resort to third-party tools, I regret to say we may no longer reconsider making comments in the future. That's a really big thing. Having Yoshi-P and the team do that is great. I think people want to see them involved more, but it seems like they might have to. He's talking about like the competition thing is weird, and it is a cultural thing that I've seen from my perspective. But man, I don't know how I feel about this because I kind of fall under. I would love to see them more involved. And this is basically them kind of saying, like, if you guys don't knock it off, like, we're going to have to distance ourselves even further, which I think is a real loss for the community overall. Let's get into data mining. This is where it gets pretty deep. Due to an oversight in the development team's part, model data for Dragonsong Reprise was represented in patch 6.08. The data was mined, and the appearance of the raid's final boss was made public. Such data was normally masked and cannot be discovered, but this time it slipped through our checks. In addition, and this is a theme that we've seen kind of happening with kind of the last couple of weeks and months with 6.1, but we'll talk more about that in a second. In addition, at virtually the same time the patch was released, a screenshot from the phase that players have yet reached was leaked. We believe it came from an insider and are in the middle of a thorough investigation. We refrained from making this known earlier because it would have made the investigation more difficult if the suspect were aware of it. Such leaks are utterly unacceptable, and they not only undermine the efforts of the development and operations team, but also take away from the player's enjoyment. And you can see this font is increased and it's bolded because it's important. One of the things that I think players, as kind of that relationship goes, the thing we give back to the devs is our excitement and joy. And when this stuff leaks out, it kind of steals away that. And it also kind of does it in such a weird way because it's not like the leaker gets multiple chances at it, and maybe they do, but it's not like you're sitting here like, oh, thank you so much, you leaked this information to me, and then I got it a couple of days earlier, and it just seems like an interesting kind of weird thing when the only word I can think of is clout, but it doesn't really it feels like such an impermanence in terms of clout that it doesn't seem to make sense just to me. Maybe it is to everybody else, and you guys can let me know what you think. Previously, when a major league occurred prior to the release of Shadowbringers, we succeeded in identifying the culprit and took legal action, and that there has been another leak despite this is deeply concerning, and in addition to bringing the offender to account, we'll take measures to prevent the repeat of the situation. Now, be it graphical resources or something else, there may be legal ramifications for mining private data via illicit means that with the intent to make it public. Perhaps due to high interest, however, we've been seeing websites that openly release mined graphical data. As a show of our administration of those who clear the ultimate raids, admiration, that'd be a better word, we designed their reward weapons to be as eye-catching as possible, and to widely spread their images outside the game could diminish players' motivation to earn them. We made this request before and we'll make it again. Please refrain from disseminating mined data. Regarding server emulation, the leaks outlined above have led to some to speculate that groups may have used server emulation to figure out the progression timeline for this battle. However, Final Fantasy XIV is run by a variety of independent programs operating on a multitude of specialized servers. So to completely emulate its server environment outside our infrastructure is impossible. It would cost tens of millions of yen just to obtain the necessary servers. Without these servers and their proprietary programming, while one could potentially pull off the client software and display the model and data and the like, the game itself will not operate. Even if one were somehow to accomplish this feat, it would still be physically impossible to run the unique programming introduced on the servers upon the application of each patch before the patch is even released. The progression timeline for each duty exists solely within the server-side code, and it is never included in the patch data download to players' clients. I apologize for any undue concern by these rumors, which themselves were sparked by the affirmation links, and once again unsure, or to assure you that we will conduct a full investigation to prevent this from happening again in the future. So in conclusion, thanks to our devoted Warriors of Light, Final Fantasy XIV has grown into a titan among games. This means that it is now home to players from all walks of life, and not just lifelong Final Fantasy XIV fans, but those who have recently come to join us from a myriad of great game communities as well. Many more eyes are on 14 now, and posting about it garners a great deal of attention, which has changed now. Information is shared online and spreads throughout the player base. With this in mind, I'd like to encourage the development of a strong 14 community by continuing to provide commentary as I've done today. Truly, I cannot apologize enough for the many mistakes that we've made in patch 6.1 and the resulting disappointment of such a major patch. Nevertheless, we intend to forge ahead so that Final Fantasy XIV may continue to bring joy as many players as possible, and we hope that you stay with us along this journey. And like I said, this is a pretty big, massive update. So once again, Yoshi-P is apologizing. We've seen a lot of different, I hesitate on the word mistakes because I kind of define them in two categories. Do you make the same, is it the same issue? And I have not yet seen that personally. You might be, different in that regards, like housing, the lottery, that is being an issue, housing just being a general thing that players are frustrated with. But overall, like we've seen with, how Endwalker ended and going into 6.1, with like obviously leaks and bugs and what have you. It doesn't feel like what I've seen people express as this, doom for the game, that Final Fantasy XIV is slipping. I have seen that expression online. I don't actually tend to agree with it. But essentially what I appreciate about Yoshi-P is that he comes out and addresses it head on. He doesn't let it kind of simmer behind the scenes. This can also be kind of applied to cheaters within PvP. That's a big concern. This post didn't really go into that. That's something that I personally want to see them address, and maybe in a degree this addresses it. You can guys let me know if that feels like it, but it's obviously third-party tools and mods that people are using, and essentially what it's going to sound like is they're going to evaluate some things, and it sounds like probably they're going to either distance themselves from Ultimate if the community can't get itself together in that regards, if you can't feel like cheating. And that kind of brings us back to a bigger discussion, and maybe we'll have that over on Work to Game with Chris today, is that the world first race, having the people who run it privately, and then you have the people who run it publicly. And what does that mean? What do we want for, the ultimate race and any kind of world first race going forward? Because people who run it privately do have an edge. And if the ending of them are cheating and using software and kind of feeding out that aspect, well, then they have a bigger edge. And the people who are running it publicly, are kind of setting themselves at a disadvantage if they're truly trying to go for that world first. It's a big question, and we'll have to explore it. Some, some thoughts on that maybe later today for y'all. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for your time today. Hopefully you got something good from this video, some information. Also be sure to go and check out the post if you feel like, you want to go just read it for yourself. Link will also be in the description. Again, thanks everybody for your time. Hopefully you have a wonderful day. Hopefully I'll see you in my next video, but until then, take care.
Yeah. It's time to chill out on the couch and read some comments. That's right. You know me when it comes to Destiny. I'm off with a clan, and I'm glad you're feeling better.